All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Yellow Card Podcast, presented to you by Couch Guy Sports. If you have not checked out Couch Guy Sports, I recommend that you do, because if you're not doing so, you're falling behind and you're sleeping on the bus. That bus is going to be going bye-bye very soon. You do not want to be left behind.
Stock.
That's right. That's right. Listen, Couch Guy Sports stock right now is going as fast as Dogecoin. So if you're investing and you're looking to get on it, I recommend you do so now. Follow Couch Guy Sports on Twitter at Couch Guy Sports. Make sure you check out couchguysports.com. Check out the store, couchguysportshop.com. All right, that's enough of Couch Guy Sports, because it feels like those are the only three words I know.
Couch. We're guys, and we like talking about sports. Yeah, I get it.
Yep. I personally like when people sit on my lap, but that's just me. Because the couch could be a little too tiny. So Chris is already lining up. But welcome back to another episode of the Yellow Card Podcast. It is episode 33. We have a lot to talk about, guys, because if you guys will excuse my little special guest, I think it's called.
Come on, be a good host and don't get distracted. Let's go.
It is episode 33. We have a lot to talk about. We had a phenomenal week of soccer once again. I mean, it just seems like we're lining up to the perfect ending of all tournaments throughout Europe. We're seeing a lot of talent growing up, not just American talent, but like overall. I think we're really just kicking off to the next era of soccer. And I think this week determined that just far more than everything else. So let's get into things immediately. We had the Champions League at the beginning of the week on Tuesday and Wednesday, the second leg of the quarterfinals to now decide the Final Four. The Final Four of the Champions League right now, excellent Final Four. It is Real Madrid, it is Chelsea, it is PSG, and it is Manchester City. I hate to say that Real Madrid is in the Final Four, considering that I want Zidane out so bad. But how can you want him out after his team had his back throughout two crucial rounds against a very tough Liverpool team that unfortunately kind of rested on their laurels on leg one? But leg two, that was a compelling argument for a very close game between the two of them. Unfortunately, luck wasn't on the side of Liverpool, but a phenomenal game between the two. I think if I'm not mistaken, the possession was like 46-54 of the ball in itself. It's just absolutely ridiculous how close this game was.
57-43.
Wow, just by 1%.
Dude, honestly, if you're not buying into Diego's shock, fucking wake the fuck up. This guy's fucking on a heater at the moment. Fuck. Diego tells me to spend money on fucking the stupidest thing I'm doing it. You know why? Because he's hot. Gonna ride the hot hand.
So we got the Champions League. We also got the Europa League coming up as well. We got the FA Cup this weekend. We have some topics to talk about, like the manager of the year, because there's a lot going on there too. And if you are in America listening to us right now, ladies and gentlemen, the MLS is back. MLS is back. We'll get into that in episodes to come forward, but let's just focus right now on the Champions League. Chris, you've had the records of all of us combined, seeing how we've done through the tournament. So why don't you just catch us up to that right now, and let's go from there.
Yeah, that's easy. So for starters, we all went 1-3 last week because the eyeballs weren't working, and a lot of things that we thought were going to happen did not. So we all got Man City right. Shout out to me for getting 2-1 correct.
Oh
wow. Andrew had 3-1. Diego had 1-0, and then when we had Neil Caswell on, he said 2-0 City. And he was a big 2-0 guy. He expected a lot of 2-0 games, and those didn't happen.
Before you proceed, shout out to Neil Caswell. Thank you so much for showing up on episode 32. Fantastic guy. If you're not following him, you're also falling behind on the bus. Make sure that you follow him at How Neil Feels on Twitter. Anyways, Chris, continue.
Yeah, so just going into the records. Myself, still the top dog. It's 71-51.
I've never heard of a dog that makes monkey noises. That's a special dog.
That wasn't a monkey noise. A monkey's like, oh, oh, ah, ah. I went,
Well, thank you for falling into it and making a monkey
you're
voice.
welcome. You're welcome. Diego is 63-59, and Mr. Fasciano, Mr. 10 games over 500, no more. Andrew, 40-32 going in. So for the Champions League this week, it doesn't start until after next week. So what we're going to do is we're just going to give thoughts about how we think these legs are going to go. We're not giving no score predictions or nothing like that yet. We're just going to talk about the matchups as a whole. Sure. I'm going to flip a coin. Just kidding. Andrew, Real Madrid and Chelsea. Andrew, Real Madrid or Chelsea or PSG Man City?
Real Madrid, Chelsea.
All right, so let's start with let's start with Real Madrid and Chelsea. Start with Mr. Fasciano. Give me your thoughts on these two matchups.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I mean, to be honest with you, Real Madrid impressed me last round. I wasn't expecting them to play quite as well as they did. I believe Neil said this last week on the episode that it might be fair to say that at this point they have kind of one leg out the door in La Liga and they're focusing on the Champions League, which I think is probably the smart decision at this point, given where they are in the semifinals. Do we think Sergio Ramos will be back in time for this one, or is he still?
I think he misses the first leg.
He just got COVID as well, and I don't know
why
they're saying Real Madrid's got one foot out the door, because they're second place in La Liga as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe one foot out the door is the wrong way to say it, but kind of like divided attention. You can't just focus on one or the other at this point, because both are legitimate chances to win something, I guess. I know that Real Madrid scored 3 goals in the first leg against Liverpool, but I have questions about whether or not they can get that same sort of output against Chelsea's defense. You got to remember that Liverpool were rocking with their 2 very young, inexperienced center backs. That will not be the case for Chelsea. I like Chelsea to advance over the 2 legs. I think it will be close, particularly in the first leg in Madrid. I could see that one being a draw or even Madrid getting a win, but I think over the 2 legs, Chelsea, they're just so good defensively. I just can't see them conceding a whole bunch to Madrid, and I think they have the offensive talent to score on the other end, especially if someone like Ramos is not fit.
I would agree with that. The only thing that I would have to add on about Chelsea and Real Madrid is so to Andrew's point, you just face a team that's still trying to gel together their center back pieces. You got an inexperienced Kabak going against one of arguably the top team in the world in the past however many years, right? This is the 1 year where they've been kind of questioning. Actually, the past couple of years have been questionable, but you got Azpilicueta, Thiago Silva, and Antonio Rudiger in the back 3. That is as good as you're going to see out of any Premier League team overall. In fact, I almost will be willing to say that Chelsea's defense is almost or equivalent to Manchester City's defense, because they are just that experienced and they are that good. I think the one thing that I'm really looking forward to is a matchup between Christian Pulisic and Vinicius Jr. The reason I say that is because both of their game is very similar, except with the fact that Christian Pulisic is more of a streaky, straight to the point go, rather than a creator streak go kind of thing, which is what Vinicius Jr. has to offer to Real Madrid. And overall, I think if Conte and Jorginho manage to control Luka Modric and Toni Kroos from Real Madrid, it's over for them. They don't even have a leg in here. I think if anything, this game is going to be very similar to Porto and the Chelsea round, because Porto plays a very reserved style of play, similar to what Real Madrid does, with the exception that they have a creative piece like Vinicius Jr. that can at any point can flip the game across. That is something that Porto struggled to have. They didn't really have a Luis Diaz to come in there for an Oliveira to create the game. And when they did that a little too late. hence why they got eliminated. But shout out to Porto too. I mean, what a phenomenal Champions League they played this year. I think this is probably the second furthest they've gone after they won the Champions League many years back. That's literally all I have to say. I think if anything, Real Madrid should really be careful in resting on their laurels because Chelsea's keeper, what's his name? Mendy, I think it's his last name.
Edward Mendy, yeah.
Yeah, Edward Mendy, complete different type of person aside of Alisson Becker. I think Alisson Becker is a great goalie, but I think Mendy right now is just at another level. He's just got that focus drive going through him.
I mean, not for nothing, but the way that Chelsea looked the last couple games that they played in that formation, and their three attacking of Havertz up front and Mason Mount playing with Christian Pulisic as your attacking midfielders, it's looked pretty good. Besides, obviously the Porto game, they lost the game, but they were just trying to remain on top of in the aggregate. They weren't going all out. I'm curious to see how they line up against Real. To be completely honest with you, I just think their lineup as a whole can shift in many different ways. And since Thomas Tuchel has come in, we've praised how good this Chelsea team has been. And I think we're going to see Chelsea move on out of this. I really do. Because if I'm a gambling man, like I say I am, I would bet that Courtois messes up before Mendy does.
Oh, for sure.
So
I would make that bet safely.
So for me personally, I just think Chelsea's talented. And also, too, the thing about Chelsea is you got to remember the Eden Hazard story. Them giving up Hazard's been probably one of the biggest busts in Real Madrid history. Yep. He hasn't stayed on the field. He hasn't played well at all since he's left Chelsea. So for me, that's another tie-in into this leg. But I'm really curious to see how these two teams play against each other. I do see Chelsea moving on, though.
And I mean, to be honest with you, even if you look at their bench, Chelsea's bench, any of those players are so crucial to coming into the game and changing things up. You got Tammy Abraham up front. He can change the game in the seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Timo Werner, Kurt Zuma, Oliver Giroud, Callum Hudson-Odoi. You got Hakeem Ziyech. I mean, it's ridiculous. Defensively wise, you got Andreas Christensen and Marcos Alonso. I don't think there's any team right now that can say, I can just put anybody in my bench and be good to go, except for Chelsea.
I agree. So let's move on to the premier matchup of the semifinal, PSG and Man City. This has so much potential. This would have been a great final to see, by the way.
Yeah. But
this has the potential to be a very good game, very good semifinal matchup as well. I think the big issue here is how Man City's defense has been that good. You saw what they did to Erling Haaland and company. Can they keep that up against Neymar and Mbappe? That's going to be the big tell-all of the two legs, in my opinion. Because Man City's going to get their chances up front. Don't get me wrong. But if they can contain Mbappe and Neymar and make them struggle to get open looks, you're going to have a tough draw.
Yeah.
So, and to be completely honest with you, I'm taking Ederson over Navas. It's the thing. You got to look at the goaltending in both of these matchups. Ederson is just, in my opinion, he's one of those goalies that he goes out and he's very risky, but the majority of the time it works. And Navas just has like that span of games where he's really good, and then he has like the 1 to 2, which he stinks. Could this be where we see it out of him? I don't know. I'm just curious. And I think PSG needs to play Moise Kean every single game in this. Since acquiring him from Everton, Moise Kean's been a whole different animal.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, Andrew, I don't know if you want to go first before I go.
You can go if you want.
All right. I would disagree a little bit on the Keylor Navas versus Ederson thing, just simply because Keylor Navas is more of a conservative guy in the box and knows how to reserve that conservatism to a point where his teammates trust him not to make a mistake. I think Ederson's riskiness to go outside of the box and try to make a play out of there really leaves his defense in a vulnerable spot. Never mind, of course, I mean, you got somebody like Ruben Diaz and the rest of the crew there.
He's only 23. He's not good.
You know, that you got a defense that you can count on, but you never know against this PSG team where you feel like you only have one person that you got to worry about in Kylian Mbappe, but you also got to count Angel Di Maria and Neymar, because Angel Di Maria at any point can change the focus of this game with one thing that he can do, which is really, really, really impact the wings. And there is nobody more impactful right now in the wing game than Angel Di Maria in this Champions League right now. Besides that, I would say that for Manchester City, their best bet is continue to play Phil Foden. Phil Foden has been a story to tell all along for Manchester City. And if he continues to go this way, he could be the centerpiece that can take him that step further into the final. We could very well have an English Premier League final here in between Chelsea and Manchester City, which would be a fantastic game to watch because it is two very smart coaches versus two very well coached teams. That's as premier as you're gonna get. I think Kevin De Bruyne has also had to step up his game a little bit and go outside the box. I think that him being the center, basically being put as that center striker right now, is really not the ideal role for him. I think that would be a role more for for somebody like a Gabriel Jesus or maybe even a Raheem Sterling at worst. I think Kevin De Bruyne is more of a creative piece, and he should really be where Rodri Hernandez has been playing. But Rodri has been playing relatively good for them too. So I think for Pep Guardiola, going up against a PSG, I think he's gonna go a little bit outside of the box in the 4-3-3, keeping that formation, but maybe more into like a diamond in the middle, where he's going basically 4-1-2-3. To just kind of create that type of diversity in that game. I think overall we're gonna see very close legs in between the two of them, to the point that it could even go to penalties because these two teams are very similar in style of play.
Yeah, I mean, I think this could be one of the best Champions League semifinals that we've seen in quite some time, to be honest. But at the same time, I also wouldn't be entirely shocked if one of these two teams falls flat a little bit and disappoints, just because for all the resources and talent that they have, we've seen both of them have struggled at the highest level of the Champions League in the past. So I think this is a huge opportunity for both these clubs. I think whoever gets through this one will feel that they have the ability to win the final. Chelsea might have something to say about that if they get through, but I think if you're in the PSG camp or in the Man City camp, you probably have to look at it as we get through this one, we have a real shot at winning the Champions League.
Yeah.
I think the player that I am most interested in watching over these two legs is Neymar. I think we're kind of past the period where Neymar is the next big thing. A lot of attention recently has been going to Haaland, Mbappe, this young new crop of talented players who are coming through. I think this could be a career-defining tie for Neymar, these two legs. If he wants to show that he's still right up at the top, as I think he is, but I think maybe he doesn't get quite as much credit as he once did when he was at Barcelona playing with Suarez and Messi. I think this is a chance for him to take over this leg and score a couple goals and show that he really is among the best. Having said that, I think that sort of matchup of the Man City defense trying to limit Mbappe and Neymar is probably going to decide this semifinal, because they're going to get chances, but if City can limit them and, take away their space as much as possible, the possibility is there to kind of put them off their game and prevent them from hurting you too much. I think at the beginning of the quarterfinals, when we picked our routes to the final, I think I said Man City and Chelsea. So I'm going to stick with that and say that Man City are going to get through this one. But like Diego said, I could see this being really, really close over two legs and perhaps even going to penalties. But for me, I think it's going to come down to what the Man City defense is able to do against Mbappe and Neymar, because I think as good as De Bruyne is, I think those are the two best attacking players in this matchup. So if they can take control and do their thing, then PSG have a shot. But if City's incredible defense can limit them, I like City to get through.
All right. So that does it for the Champions League. Unless, Chris, if you have anything to add.
No, I just think we're going to be in for 4 exciting games overall in the Champions League.
I just got one real quick hot take that you guys may disagree or might even agree, depending on the context of how I deliver it. I think Neymar right now is in a situation where Ronaldo, Nazarin, when the phenomenon was just being born, right? Where his style of play was unusual for the rest of the world of soccer. And his drive and his impulse was just phenomenal. But unfortunately, all these injuries really put a gap into his career. I think that's exactly where Neymar is. He was a phenomenon about 2 to 3 years back, but due to the recent injuries that he's gained, somebody else is taking the spotlight and he's no longer that phenomenon. I think he's just now more of a contributor to the game rather than an asset to the game in itself. That's all I got to say. Moving on to the Europa League, another fantastic league in itself. We had all the games on Thursday, fantastic, because it allows for some of us to catch our breath. We had a really, really good second leg of quarterfinals with Arsenal, I think, in my opinion, being the story to tell, because holy crap, did they put Slavia Praha in their place. You might have seen some controversy at the beginning of that game where Arsenal, the full entire team, took a knee, but Slavia Praha decided to stand up. I think that was it's a bit concerning for Slavia Praha and that organization. I think they could very well be facing some serious penalties to come their way, especially from FIFA itself, considering that every single league in the world has taken upon the message of standing up against racism and social justice and equality. And for Slavia Praha to just kind of do this in such a big stage, I don't think it really looks good in their organization. They could potentially lose a spot where they could say, we no longer want you playing at this stage of tournament. Can they do that? I don't know. I don't know if there is certain rules on that, but can it happen? It sure can, considering the way that the world is happening right now. But besides that, we also had a very good game in between Roma and Ajax. I mean, it ended up tied, so obviously a very good game. Manchester United did their thing against Granada, and Villarreal did their thing against Dynamo Zagreb. I'm going to start with Chris. In your opinion, best game of the second leg?
United and Roma. We've seen what.
Well, wait. Time out. Best game of this second leg. Not yet the semifinal.
Okay. Roma and Ajax, because it was just from start to finish, it was just a hell of a game. And the reason why Roma is moving on is because of the fact of them scoring that late goal in the first leg. So it took literally everything from Roma to beat Ajax, and Ajax is just so good and so talented. And from start to finish, that was a great game. I'll say that was my favorite from the second leg.
All right, Andrew.
For me, that Arsenal Slavia Praha one was the best. I think that performance from Lacazette is going to go down in history, to kneel right in front of the whole team, stare them down, and then back it up and score 2 goals. I kind of I wanted Slavia Praha to kind of get destroyed in this matchup. So just from a personal perspective, I'm glad that happened, and the way that they did it. It was just cool what Lacazette did to like be right in their face and then back it up as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I definitely agree with Andrew. Slavia Praha and Arsenal was my game of the week, even though Manchester United did their thing against Granada, and it was a very close game too, considering it took a lot out of us to get the 2-0. I definitely agree. I think, like I said, took this team on his back. They decided to back up the fact that, like, I'm going to stare at you and I'm going to consume you in every single way. And he did that. He was relentless in his attack. The defense struggled to keep up with him. He scored 2 goals. I mean, the dude told his story in that game, and that was just absolutely wonderful. It's a shame how Slavia Prague has been managed, but hey, they're eliminated. A thing of the past. Now moving on to the semifinals. Manchester United versus Roma. What a semifinal. And we could very well see some history again happening here. I don't know if you guys saw all on Twitter the Manchester United Roma scoreboard from Old Trafford trending, where it was a 7-1 in a while back. I don't know if that's going to really be a 7-1 considering how good Roma has been. But I can't discredit United either. United has been on a very hot tier as of late, playing with everything they got. In fact, I don't know if you guys heard the controversial interview of Paul Pogba in regards to Jose Mourinho, but boy, if there is something that can fire up a team like that, Paul Pogba did it. Paul Pogba managed to fire up the rest of Manchester United and its crew to sit behind them and deliver on what they need to do. I think we're gonna see a very close semifinal between those two. I think it's impossible to say that Manchester United will be discounted until we see what happens on the pitch. At this point, I'm riding Manchester United towards the final. That's what I'm sticking with. So, what about you guys?
So do you remember when the quarterfinals came out originally, and we gave our predictions on who we thought would be in the final?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I wanted known that I was the only one that picked Roma out of the three of us to beat Ajax, and I want on the record that I'm the only one that's picking Roma to go to the final out of you three. So for me personally, it's there's no gripe with United. I just think that they're going to set themselves up for failure in this. And I think it's going to start on the first leg. That them being at home at Old Trafford should be a good game overall. But I think Roma's going to do what they need to do in order to win that game outright and get the away goal aggregate, and then have United be on their toes in leg two, personally. And I don't think United will do well under pressure in game two. So I'm saying Roma's moving on.
I don't think Diego's too happy with that. But
no, I can just tell the part my French, but the bullshit oozing out of Jones right there, because he's like, he's like,
do you want to see the notes? Look,
no.
Says, Arsenal, Roma.
No, all
there
good.
it is.
All good. But what I'm saying is, well, no banter towards United. But these guys are gonna choke on the first leg.
No, it's just what I'm expecting out of it. Like you of all people would be the first one to say, "Oh, it's just because you hate fucking Manchester United or this. No, I'm telling you, this is what I'm expecting to see.
Okay.
I'm kind of torn on this one. I think my gut instinct is that United will advance. I would say that in the quarterfinals, United had an easier matchup than Roma did. So
okay, fair.
Do I look at it as that took more out of Roma, or is Roma more battle hardened and in the zone and ready to go? I think a real key, like Chris pointed out in this one, will be, given that the first leg is at Old Trafford, I think United need to keep a clean sheet in that first leg, like at all costs. Basically, if they go to Roma in a situation where Roma could advance with a 1-0 win at home, I would be worried personally, just because I think Roma would be capable of doing that. They're a good team, but I think if United can come out, get a win, keep a clean sheet, I think they have more than enough to set themselves up to advance. I think it's going to be a really tough matchup for both teams. I think it's going to be really closely contested, but I think United, given if they'll be able to come out at home and play well in the first leg, I think they can advance in this one.
To me, it's all about how they play in the first leg. If they play well in the first leg, I can see them going to the final easily. But if they struggle, we've seen how they are under pressure when they're down. They're not the greatest teams. We've seen it in the Champions League when they're in the Champions League, and we've seen it at times in the EPL. So personally, just looking at that, and when they played AC Milan in the round of 16, they weren't really like they were even the whole way, and then United took the lead. So if Roma gets out ahead, I just don't trust United to get back into the fold.
Okay. All right. What about Villarreal and Arsenal? How do we feel about that?
This is going to be a showdown of all ages. Unai Emery versus his old club. Oh, this is must-watch TV for 2 weeks in a row.
Listen, if Bad Bunny is going on the last tour of the world, Unai Emery is going on the last redemption tour of the world in this one.
I don't know, dude. I think
now.
Arsenal's too good. Like, Villarreal's tough, don't get me wrong. But if you look at who they've played, right? They've played Dinamo Zagreb, who beat Tottenham, yes. But other than that, they didn't look that great in the Champions League. Dynamo Kiev, and then I feel like, for whatever reason, I just feel like they didn't play anybody. Now they're facing a tough Arsenal team. I think they're going to struggle a little bit. And obviously, Unai Emery is going to have this team fired up and ready to go because it's facing his old team. But at the same time, Lacazette, what he did to Slavia Praha makes me think that they're literally going to win the Europa League. I think that was the start of their ride to the Europa League title. And for Arsenal, in order to go to the Champions League next year, you need to win the Europa League. And I think that's what they do. So I'm saying Arsenal takes control of the first leg and then wins after the second leg.
All right, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm also thinking Arsenal in this one. I think to be fair to Arsenal, they're better than their 9th place in the table right now suggests. Like, they were so bad at the beginning of the season, but they're playing a lot better right now. And I think it's really important for them, like Chris said, to have guys like Lacazette, their big offensive weapons, going and engaged. And you couldn't ask for a clearer demonstration that is the case than the second leg against Slavia Praha. I think Villarreal have been very solid this season. And I certainly wouldn't count them out of this tie, especially considering, like Chris said, that they beat a team that beat Tottenham, who are ahead of Arsenal in the Premier League table right now, I think. But I would say, like we talked about with Man United being at home first, I think Villarreal should be a little worried that they're at home first, because I could see it being a very competitive game there. I have more trouble seeing them coming to London and really giving Arsenal a competitive game. Like, I could see maybe like a 2-2 draw or something in the first leg, and then Arsenal winning by a couple goals in the second leg to move.
Well, think of Arsenal's last 2 road games in the Europa League. They beat Praha 4-0, and they beat Olympiacos 3-1. So they've played better on the road than they have at home.
That's a good point,
the Europa
actually.
League. So that's another thing that you need to legitimately look out for as well. And even when they played, they played Benfica and they drew and then they won at home, obviously. But their last 2 road games in the Europa League, they've outscored their opponents 7-1. So that's something you need to watch out for as well, especially on that first leg.
Yeah.
I would say I think we have an even game here, because just like Arsenal has been a really good team playing away, Villarreal has been a really good team playing at home. Granted, their road trip to this stage has not been as difficult as Arsenal, considering Arsenal has played somebody like Benfica, Olympiacos, Slavia Praha, for example, while Villarreal has played somebody like Dynamo Kiev. I think their hardest matchup was probably RB Salzburg, which really demanded a lot out of them. But they delivered. They delivered with that demand. I think just like for Arsenal, the key piece right now is Alexander Lacazette for what he did against Slavia Praha. I think the centerpiece for Villarreal right now is Moreno. You can't discount that man at any circumstances right now. He was a centerpiece for the first leg of that game against Dynamo Zagreb, and he was a centerpiece again for the second leg of the Dynamo Zagreb piece, including the second goal that he scored in the 43rd minute. I think actually the way that Unai Emery has this team lined up in that 4-4-2 formation, it's a very good and compelling game against an Arsenal team that can be creative at any point. it sets you up for a good amount of defensive skills, but it also sets you up for a good counter attack. I think if anything, though, you really need to get Moreno to become more of a creative piece in the middle and allow Carlos Vaca and Paco Alcacer to do their thing up front, because Carlos Vaca can be a defining moment for this team at any point, just like Paco Alcacer could be it. I would even say that Ramiro Funes Mori could also be an essential piece for these guys as well. So I think the first leg will probably go maybe a 2-1 victory for Villarreal, but I think it's the second leg where things will really come down to a point where they could even go to penalties, because these teams are so even in their styles of play. They counteract each other very well. So it's, to me, actually, even though Roma and Manchester United have a lot to offer, I think I'm actually more interested in the Villarreal Arsenal game for myself personally. All right, so that does it for the Europa League. Now let's move on to what we got going on this weekend, which is FA Cup action. We have some very good matches here. Personally, we got what? Chelsea versus Manchester City, which is potential shades of a Champions League final. Leicester City versus Southampton, which is also a really good match. Everybody continues to discredit Southampton, but that beginning of the season, that team was unreal to look at. They could very well give Leicester City right here a run for their money.
I agree.
So Chelsea versus Manchester City today, Saturday, April 17th at 12:30 coming up. What do we think of this game? What do we think score-wise?
I actually think that Chelsea's going to win this game. I think City's focus is beyond this right now. I think their focus is the Champions League, because Pep's trying to win it for the first time as a Manchester City coach. He's made it to the semifinals for the first time as a Manchester City coach this year. So I think that's their main focus. And then I think winning the EPL. I don't think the FA Cup means that much to them. But for a team like Chelsea, this win would be beneficial moving forward, because not only are you fighting for top 4 spot, you're still fighting for the Champions League as well. So I think this gives them a little bit more confidence going into their matchup with Real Madrid. So I think Chelsea wins today 2-1.
See, so I personally agree a lot with what you just said. I think for Chelsea, this is more of a statement setter based on their trend towards the Premier League, trying to stay into top 4, maybe even top 3 for the Premier League in itself, doing a really good Champions League tournament. And I think the FA Cup is just a cherry on top for them. For Thomas Tuchel, this is a compelling story, considering that he took this team from shambles to rejuvenating this guy, giving Chelsea a renaissance opportunity here. I think actually the factor here for Manchester City is that they're playing against a very youthful team in Chelsea, and I think that catches up to them. I think for Manchester City, they would have probably needed this game to be tomorrow instead than today, just given the amount of energy that it took for them out of the Champions League to compete against a Borussia Dortmund side that really took a lot out of them. For Chelsea, on the other hand, I think don't get carried away too fast, because if you allow to even give Phil Foden that taste of getting carried away, that dude will eat you alive like no tomorrow. Phil Foden is potentially going to be the next at the way that Pep Guardiola is coaching this guy and the results that he's delivering. It reminds me a lot of how Lionel Messi was born in Barcelona, and this is exactly where Phil Foden could be going to. I'm actually gonna go with a 2-0 score here for Chelsea.
Okay, yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I think it's probably the biggest game that we watched on stream thus far, given that it's a FA Cup semifinal. You guys both went with Chelsea. I'm kind of leaning towards Man City in this one. I think I'm going to actually say this for both of these semifinal matchups, but I think the first goal in this game is going to be incredibly important. especially if Manchester City gets it. I can't see Chelsea coming back from conceding the first goal, because I think for Chelsea to win, I think they'll want Manchester City to have a lot of the ball. I think they're going to sit and defend and focus on being solid first and foremost, and then try and get a goal sort of late in the game. Which if they do that, I could certainly see them winning. I don't think Man City is a lock by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, like you guys pointed out, they just had a big Champions League game against Dortmund. Although, to be fair to them, if there's any team that could rotate and rest their big guys and still be competitive, I think it's Man City, because they just have so much talent. I think it's going to be really close. I think it would be a 1-goal game any way it goes. I could even see this one going to penalties, which I would kind of be down for, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
That would be exciting.
Agreed.
But yeah,
one thing I will say is City has won 9 of their last 11 FA Cup semifinal matches, but in their 2 of their previous 4 campaigns under Pep Guardiola, they've been eliminated in the semifinals, 2017 and 2020, both against Arsenal. So personally, I just think Chelsea is just a play and a half today to win. I'm curious to see what the lineups look like, because I guarantee you Thomas Tuchel's putting his best foot forward today.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would agree.
No
with
question.
That. Yeah.
No question on that.
For my score prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 City, but would not be opposed to penalties also.
Oh. All right.
I just want it on the record. I just bet Chelsea to advance plus 175 and Chelsea to win this game in the first 90 minutes plus 335. So
okay,
let's go.
All right. I actually believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the lineups might have been announced. I'm just checking this ahead right now.
I've been refreshing. It's not nothing yet.
I think they should be in like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
they probably will be. All right.
Probably by the time we get off this. Yeah.
Let's do Leicester City versus Southampton real quick. Personally, as much as I like Southampton, I just think that Leicester City has a lot of fire in their cylinders right now. And even though that they could choke on the Premier League, which is looking very bound to happen, I think for Brendan Rodgers, this game is much more meaningful than anything else in the Premier League. They deserve a title run, considering how great they've been the past 2 years. So I'm actually going to say that Leicester City could win this one. I'm actually going to go with a 3-1 score for Leicester.
Yeah, I think Leicester's going to push for the FA Cup title, because I think I've said it. I've beaten it like a dead horse the last month or so. They're falling out slowly in the top 4, and they need something to move on and look forward to. And this is what they have to look forward to. I think Leicester wins 2-0.
Yeah, the reason why I think the first goal is really important in this game is that both teams are kind of a little short on confidence right now.
Yes.
Southampton were really good in the first half of the season, but have kind of fallen off a cliff a little bit. And Leicester City are showing signs of that late season nosedive as well. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if either of the two teams, if they concede an early goal, I could see them kind of just going into their shell and losing the game early on. So I think if you want to win this one, you got to score the first goal. I think it's really, really important that Leicester City win this game, not just for their season as a whole, but for the ramifications on the Premier League.
Wow. I'm just looking at news, and it looks like Tammy Abraham won't even be a part of the squad for Chelsea today.
Oof, that's a tough one. I'm going to go 2-1 Leicester City.
All right. I like it. All right. So we've been talking about the managers. We've been talking about their styles. We've been talking about their teams, who they manage, and why they're so good. So I think this is a perfect transitional segue into talking about manager of the year. I don't want this to be focused on the top 5 managers right now in the Premier League, just simply because we all know that they could all be manager of the year, right? I mean, Pep Guardiola, of course, great story that he's telling with Manchester City. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I mean, phenomenal story that he's writing right now for that whole entire organization, considering that he's really managed to put the whole entire team on his back. Brendan Rodgers continues to be a legend with Leicester City. David Moyes, phenomenal story for West Ham. And, I mean, Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool, it's as good as you're going to get, right? I'm gonna leave it off to these three candidates in my belief, unless you guys have another candidate that you guys want to throw out there, that in my belief should deserve a run for being managers of the year. I'm gonna go with Carlo Ancelotti for Everton. I'm gonna go with Mikel Arteta for Arsenal. And I think I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Aston Villa's coach. And Marcelo
Dean Smith.
Dean Smith and Marcelo Bielsa for Leeds United. In your opinion, which one of those four managers, unless you have another manager in mind, should deserve a run to be manager of the year? I'm gonna start with Chris because it looks like he's fired up and ready to go.
Are we talking like just EPL? Or are you talking like just in general?
I'm talking just EPL because in
Just
general,
EPL?
I have another topic I want to bring up as well.
Okay. So for just EPL, if we're talking about manager of the year, there's one name that you completely missed the ball on there. That's David Moyes from West Ham. What he's done.
I did say nobody in the top five. West Ham isn't in the top five.
I know, but still, what David Moyes has done with that team, people thought they were going to be a middle of the table team, and he's got them up into the top five right now. You got to give him credit right there.
Yep.
But personally, from a standpoint, I think you got to give another consideration to Thomas Tuchel. What he's done has made that team competitive again, and I think if they finish in the top three, which I think they do, I think you got to give him some considerations for it. And also, not for nothing, but if if they dominate the rest of the league, like I think they're going to finish up, Pep Guardiola is gonna win it. Like, it would be nice, don't get me wrong, to see Ancelotti or Bielsa from Leeds win it, but I just don't see it personally.
So I think you completely misunderstood my question.
No, you said unless you have other ones. So out of those four that you said, it would either be Ancelotti or Bielsa from Leeds. But I just don't think any of those four are going to win it. I think those two have considerations to be in the top three and potentially fight for it. But I think at the end of the day, it's either Pep, David Moyes, or Thomas Tuchel.
Okay. Andrew, what about you, sir?
Yeah, in my mind, I would say the leading favorite right now is David Moyes. I know he's in the top five, but just like you said, the way that he has overachieved, I think, if you're looking at someone in the top 10 of the table right now who has really overachieved, I think David Moyes is atop that list personally. But from those four that you mentioned, Diego, I would give the nod out of that group to Marcelo Bielsa. I think we've seen over the past couple of seasons just how tough it is to come up into the Premier League and have a good first season. Even this year, we've got Fulham and West Brom, two of the three promoted teams in the relegation zone right now. And that's how it goes more often than not. So I think you can't underestimate what he's done making the jump from the Championship to the Premier League. I think they're in 10th right now. Finishing in the top half would be a pretty impressive achievement. So I think out of those four, Bielsa probably would be my pick. But like I said at the start, I think just because of what David Moyes has done with the squad he has too, like if you look at players in the West Ham squad, I don't want to discredit them, but like I said, I think they're overachieving. And I think a lot of that is down to David Moyes and what he's done. So,
Yep. I mean, in my personal opinion, yeah, David Moyes is obviously a front runner. So is Pep Guardiola. So is Thomas Tuchel. So could also be Jurgen Klopp, considering the roller coaster of a year that he's ridden with. But personally, I feel that we all have also discredited Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and I think the man deserves a little bit of credit here, and not a little bit, actually a lot, considering that. And for me personally too, I mean, as a Manchester United fan, I don't think I know a single Manchester United fan that has not discredited Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for the season, or maybe he has even said Ole out, right? Because it's been a roller coaster.
Dale was writing them off the first 5 episodes of the podcast.
But I think throughout the whole entire season in itself, we knew this was going to be a hard story for for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer because he basically had to rebuild his team from the ground up, considering that the disastrous pot that Jose Mourinho left behind was a big hurt in itself for Manchester United and that organization. I think it put them in a vulnerable spot where there was no chemistry in that locker room, where there was no respect for anybody in that locker room. And I think it took a lot for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, especially with such a young crew, to kind of develop that family environment. And he's done a really great job. Bringing Bruno Fernandes as a leading piece for that whole entire team too has managed to not only reestablish that there's not just one man that can redetermine the whole entire game for that whole entire team, but I can also say there is one man that all should rely on, and that one man will rely on all of you as well, and that is Bruno Fernandes. I would take that out of the four that I had previously mentioned, though. I think Marcelo Bielsa deserves a lot of credit here. For a Leeds United team to come back to a Premier League as stacked as it is this year, with the talent that it is this year, not only that, but give hell to Liverpool in their very first game of the season. I mean, for the love of God, when you are growing with a team that barely has any pieces available to it, you're building a foundation from like the cheapest way possible and hoping to strive for glory. Marcelo Bielsa, this guy is a god at Leeds United right now. The guy deserves so much credit, and his passion is undeniable for the game. I'm a big Carlo Ancelotti guy. I love the guy. I have a lot of respect for him. I think what he's done with Everton has been phenomenal as well, and has been a magical ride. I think this season in itself is too early to predetermine what the career of his managerial status is going to be going forward. I think come the next offseason, once Carlo Ancelotti does a few other center moves around, that will define the future for Everton, because it could very well be a situation where Everton could very well finish top 5 next year if they get the correct pieces, or where Everton might have to sell away some of their pieces because it's not working out. But besides that, those are the guys I think would be managers of the year for the EPL. But speaking of management, Germany released a bombshell of news midpoint through the week on Wednesday, I believe. Might have been Tuesday, might have been Wednesday, regardless. Joachim Low steps down as head coach of the German national team. Guess who takes the freaking leadership role? Hans Flick. No other than Hans Flick, which I think we kind of alluded to it earlier in the in some of the episodes of the Yellow Card podcast, that somebody like Jurgen Klopp or Hans Flick could very well be the German national coach, but we didn't predict it to be this soon. There was no way that you could have predicted that, right? In your personal opinion, now that there's going to be a big gap in Bayern Munich, number one, who do you think could fill the role of manager for Bayern Munich? And number two, what does the future look like for Bayern Munich if they don't get the right person ahead? I'm going to start with Andrew, Chris, and then myself.
Yeah, so this is a tough one. I'm trying to think of like really big name coaches who are out there and available right now. And I may be wrong, but I don't think there's a whole lot at this point in time. One name that that came to mind that I think might be out of a job sooner rather than later would be Jose Mourinho. I think if you're Bayern, you wouldn't really want too much to do with that. But I think if you're Jose himself, that would be a perfect chance to kind of turn your career around and get back on track. Because if he went to Bayern and didn't win trophies, like it would be hard to do that. I think they should be winning at least a trophy or two every season with how much strength they have in their squad. The other option, I know it might look a little weird optics wise, but why not give Joachim Low a shot? I mean, he won the World Cup with Germany. He's been there a long time, so he doesn't really have any recent club experience. But if you're looking to get back into it, he's managed in the Bundesliga before. It would be a pretty good job for him to get back into club managing and hit the ground running. So those would be two names that just right off the bat come to my mind. I don't know if there's anyone out there who's available right now that I'm missing.
I mean, there's also Julian Nagelsmann. I just
From
don't
Leipzig, yeah.
I just don't think he's built for that just yet. But
Do you know who the odds-on favorite is to win the job as the next Bayern Munich manager?
Niko Kovac, he would be fantastic.
He would be, but do you know who it is? It's Jose Mourinho.
That's crazy. I kind of
That ain't gonna happen. First of all,
Wow.
you know, and I'm telling you right now, this is exactly what's gonna happen. They're going to not be able to find the coach that they want, and who are they gonna call? Massimiliano Allegri.
Yeah,
That's their next coach is Allegri.
I would agree with that. I think, yeah, it's such a big job and it's such big shoes to fill. I don't even think that Jose Mourinho could do it. I just don't think he would be the person to lead that team
No.
into glory.
He would take that team down the tubes if that was the case.
Yeah, I would full-heartedly agree with that. I think if anything, this is an opportunity for potentially maybe a legendary piece of that club to come in and be the manager. So I wouldn't mind somebody like a Bastian Schweinsteiger to come in and take the leading role of that because he was such a centerpiece for Bayern Munich. I wouldn't be opposed to an Oliver Kahn coming into management for Bayern Munich as well, considering he was also a legendary piece of that team. But I personally think that actually Julian Nagelsmann could get the job, considering the fantastic role that he's done with RB Leipzig. Just like we saw Mark Rose get the nod for Borussia Dortmund, I think Nagelsmann could be the leading factor for Bayern Munich. I think he's got. I think he would have the potential to be able to work with the pieces that he needs, rebuild that team as a little bit as what he needs to do, and I mean I don't see why not. Niko Kovac, I don't think he would be able to come back to Bayern Munich, considering that he's now Monaco's coach. And he's been doing really well, but you know, in my gut, I have a funny feeling that I'm going to see Oliver Kahn be the manager of this team. I have a funny feeling about that. And there were reports that Oliver Kahn met with Hansi Flick in Europe. Like there are reports of that as well, that they have plans for him to become a manager. So I wouldn't mind to see that little fireball become a coach, man. I really wouldn't, considering he was such a great leader for the German national team. So, but anyways, we could go on and on and on about who the managers could be. I definitely don't agree that Mourinho would be the manager for Bayern Munich. Massimiliano Allegri, it's a possible, but I think he just really belongs more in the Serie A, maybe La Liga type of style of play. But with that said, guys, that does it for episode 33. We covered a lot of stuff here. And a lot more to come in the next few weeks too, because the roller coaster ride is not over yet. It's not over. We got some serious finals lining up, some serious semifinals here. We got the end of the Premier League lining up to be a potential look back at 2008, I believe, when Manchester City stole the cup from Manchester United. But yeah, episode 33, guys, that does it. Thank you so much to you all. Please continue to follow us on Twitter at PodcastCar. Thank you for the 500 followers that we have accomplished. We really value your support and your appreciation of this podcast. Couch Guy Sports, thank you so much for sponsoring us and for bringing this content to the rest of our fans. Until next week, guys, signing off at Diego the DJ, Andrew Fasciano, and Chris Jones, SE Jones Who 1212, and an AFAS 573. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next week. If I could just find my clicker.
Still recording.
Yep, exactly.